Welcome to Power Your Profits podcast, your friendly guide in bringing your business revenue to the next level. Listen as host Susie Carder hears inspiring stories of success from her fellow entrepreneurs and transformational leaders. Prepare to make significant change to your strategies as they unravel the secrets of building multi-million-dollar businesses and the most effective tips on finance, marketing, and sales accountability. If you want to make your first step towards explosive business growth, this is the right podcast for you. Without further ado, here is your host, Susie.
Welcome to this episode of Power Your Profit Podcast. I am your host, Susie Carder, and today's guest, you're going to love him, Steve Feld, is an MBA, business marketing strategist, author, award-winning business management executive, and most importantly, coffee enthusiast. He's worked with over 600 business owners. Steve has owned and operated and built 7 businesses, providing change management, process improvement to 3 other companies. He's been part of 3 Fortune 500 companies and now writing his 8th book, ready to be published. Please welcome my guest, Steve. Welcome, Steve. So excited that you're here. So for those of you that don't know Steve, share people what your magic is, what your juice is, and how do you serve the market?
Well, I found my passion, and my passion actually lies in working with owner-operators for businesses, because the failure rate for business owners it's just horrific in my world. It drives me nuts. And the reason it does is because most business owners just don't know business. They know their craft, their technique. And I've owned and operated 7 businesses and turned 3 others around. And I'm here to help them so they can actually realize their goals and dreams of why they became an entrepreneur.
Right. Sometimes you don't know. You're just like, because I didn't want anybody to be the boss of me. That's why.
Yeah, it goes deeper than that. There's so much more. You're going to put some sweat equity into this thing. Let's make sure we have an exit strategy so you get paid at the end.
So do you have a niche that you work in, or do you work with entrepreneurs that are doing 6 figures? Who is that person?
I have different levels because I have an automated program for startups, which is perfect for them. It fits right in their schedule, financial, everything. And then I have group coaching. So those business owners are usually doing about couple $100,000 to maybe $1 million or so. And then I have one-on-one coaching and then a mastermind group. So my clients range anywhere from startup to 150 million.
That's a big number.
It's a big range.
It's a lot of zeros.
When you get to the tens and even like 78, 90 million, they still have problems. The problems just have more zeros behind it.
That's what I always tell my students. I'm like, the difference between me and you is a couple zeros, right? So
couple zeros.
All the same, but different. So what's the best thing you like about working with entrepreneurs and business owners?
Oh my God. The very best thing is they realize their goals and dreams, and they're not going to get divorced over their business money issues. They're getting to take vacations, which most business owners don't do. They get to put money in the bank and get that financial freedom that they've dreamt about, even when they had a job, because that'll never give you that financial freedom unless you get one of those jobs. But it's to realize that their dreams are becoming reality, and they're helping the community in so many different ways. And they don't realize it's more than just them starting a business. They're impacting so many other things in the world, and it's very important.
So give me an example of some businesses that you've helped and what kind of results have you produced for them?
Yeah, I'll give you a big one and a little one. How's that?
Perfect.
A big one I had was they were doing 73 million. And when I first met him, he goes, I have 84 problems a day. And I go, So you have 84 employees. Next. And I go, have you ever looked in a mirror? And he's like, well, of course, every day. And I go, well, let's go look in a mirror right now. And I go, you see who you see in there? And he goes, yeah. And I go, there's your problem. And it took us 3 months for him to realize he was the problem, not the 84 employees.
Right. It's like, no, Steve, I promise it's Melanie. No, I promise him. I promise it's.
Once he woke up today, he was like, the day the light bulb went on, after lots of going back and forth, he just broke down and cried. He goes, "Oh my God, I really am it."
Right.
And I go, "Now we can fix it."
Yes, that's delicious. Okay, so that's a big one, 20 million. What's a smaller one? Which is probably the same
one.
All the problem.
Yeah, a small one was a retail store during the economic downturn. So that impacted them to the nth degree. Actually, sorry, this one was, I'll grab one from the pandemic, restaurant from the pandemic.
Yeah.
Barbecue restaurant in Texas, because they're not on every single corner, right?
We need another one.
Yeah, it's like you can walk 200 yards and be at the next barbecue restaurant in Texas. So they were having their pandemic hit. They had to shut down their dining room per the state law. And they called me up, freaking out. And I said, "Wait, we can fix this." As we were talking, I go, "I get your newsletter once a month. They're phenomenal. How many people, by the way, how many people do you have on your newsletter list?" They go, "Oh, I think we're at around a couple 100,000. I go,
Ching, 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 ching.
"What?" And they go, "Oh, we make sure to have everyone at our tables, every table to sign up for our newsletter. So we've been just doing that, and we do it once a month." I go, "There's our money."
Well, it's funny. I love that because it's like, I should do a newsletter. So I'm going to do a newsletter, not monetizing it, and putting great content out, but like, what else? I love it.
And we actually changed
everywhere. What you're telling me, Steve, is you find money everywhere.
It's there. I mean, I even have a proprietary software program where I can find a business owner anywhere from 50 to over 100 grand of hidden revenue in 45 minutes just by asking questions.
I love that. So what questions does the software ask?
Oh my gosh. So
like, now you have my curiosity.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just brains, it's like brain. Well, it is brains. It's a technology brain, right? Which I love.
Technology brain, because it runs it through 497 million algorithms. Well, we can't do that. But I look at 12 different areas of their business just right up front. And when they become a client, I'll put them through what I call a deep dive. So we look at 40 areas. And now we have a good roadmap. But like, say, one of the areas is your market dominating position. We all have to have one, right? And business owners, we've all been to the networking and I help, blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, everyone's going, that's not making your phone ring.
Right.
So if you have a market dominating position, will that change your business? And you will be shocked. I did this in one business. All we did was change their market dominating position to make sure the salespeople were on the same page and all the employees. Their business went up 17% in the first 30 days because they all said the exact same thing. And all we did was change their market dominating position. We haven't done anything else in the business yet.
I love that. I always tell my students, it doesn't have to be hard. It has to be strategic. Quit pulling stuff out of your hiney. Let's go to strategy.
Yeah. Because they're all focused on the tactic.
Yeah.
The posting and the emails, that's tactic.
Right.
Focus on the strategic. That's where your eyeballs should really be focusing on. If you get this right, the tactics will be 20%.
Right.
Use the 80-20 rule. And I think small business owners flip that. They're all worried about 80% is tactics and 20% is strategic.
Right. So what happened with the barbecue restaurant? What showed up on the newsletter?
So we changed their newsletter to do something fun about barbecue because they are Texas, but all their newsletter, we realized it was all over the North America. And then we gave recipes to do with leftovers. And the big joke was like, if by God, some weird reason you have barbecue leftovers, here's a recipe to use with it. And that was the ongoing joke. And then I had her start doing these short little Facebook lives that just blew up because she was doing them in her home of the recipes. And it just blew up. And then one day she goes, "I'm trying to perfect my grandmother's matzo ball soup, getting ready for holidays. So I'm thinking matzo ball soup and brisket. What do you think?" 20 seconds. She posted it. Over 500 orders within the first hour. She hasn't even made this yet.
Wow, that is
And it
awesome.
blew up. So now she had to perfect the recipe to make it in mass quantities.
I
And
love.
then we started, I said, well, you still can't open up. So I said, go talk to the city council about opening up on the sidewalk. She got sidewalk approval for tables. She started donating, getting active with donating to first responders. That got her a ton of press, more than ever. Still can't open the doors. Did curbside service, increased her employees by 7 employees because now she created her own delivery, not using Grubhub and all this other, and saved
Right.
a ton of money. It just
So,
goes on. And still the doors are closed.
still?
Oh, well, they're now open, but
Oh,
during the
I'm
whole
like,
time I was
still?
working with her, no one could walk in, and she's basically working 20-hour days, 7 days a week. And they're packed. Actually, 2020 and 2021 were their best years ever. And no
Oh,
one walked in the door.
isn't that a great story? Those are some good wins. Those are juicy.
It's
And
because
so many people
they,
are struggling right now, right?
yeah,
During this time. So what's your secret sauce for the entrepreneur? Because everyone thinks it's different because it's COVID. Well, there's always some pandemic, some economic crisis, some real estate bubble burst, this, that. So what would you say is the secret sauce? You kind of already alluded to it, but just in case people didn't hear it distinctly, what's your secret sauce to staying in action, growing my business?
I think it's finding opportunities in chaos. Because I've turned around 3 businesses and they're like, woe is me. And I said, you're going to call me the business interior decorator. And they're like, what do you mean? I go, I'm going to keep the shell of the business on the outside. Think of a house. I'm going to gut it all out and I'm going to rebuild it. Then once I rebuild the interior, I'm going to go out and work on the exterior and make the lawn shiny. That's my marketing and everything, and watch everyone start coming in. And that's kind of how I've looked at it. Like, there's ways to market, there's ways to improve your operations, process improvement, and you got to get the leader, well, the owner, in my case that I work with, what are their end goals? What are their real goals? What do they really want to achieve out of their business? To make money and not work less? Come on.
Right. What's the real?
What's the real reason?
What do you see as the biggest challenges with the entrepreneurs that you're working with? What are their biggest challenges? Like, let's say the top 3. You're like,
since I've been there, done it, I can tell you, number 1 is you're not asking for help. Mm-hmm. Hands down, I know how to run my business. I know what I'm doing. No one needs to tell me anything. Right. No one's telling you how to run your business. They're trying to help you improve your business, and they're your coach on the sidelines. They're not, telling you how to do everything. And I've been there, done it. I was one of those egotistical, I don't need any help. And my business was suffering. Once I got help, I was like, oh my God, what happened?
Well, I think part of the challenge being an entrepreneur in the same, but different, just managing more zeros. Like, there's so many charlatans, right? You get caught up in the glossy, you get caught up in the, the pretty or the promise, right? The promise is, which I hate. It just seems like such bull. Like, let's look at the rough piece of road, right?
It's going to be a rough road. It's going to be a rocky ride. I mean, that's the way it's going to be. But you know what? If you don't have someone being your co-pilot or giving you the map, you're going to drive off a cliff and not even know it.
Right. Okay. So number 1 is you're not asking for help. What's number 2?
Number 2 is hiring wrong.
We've all done that.
And I say that because a lot of business owners use the mirror test, put the mirror under the mouth. If it fogs up, you are hired.
Right.
And I've seen that with so many small business owners. And I mean, at one of my businesses, I was determined I'm going to hire people way smarter than me. I'm going to go out and find them. I'm going to pay them extra to be smarter than me. And I did that. Next thing I know, my business was doing this, just growing and growing. Why? I found someone who was better at whatever it was I hired them for. When we did our staff meetings, their ideas are flowing. We're all like, oh my God, I've never thought of this. Right. I'm now using their skill sets.
Right.
It's not an ego thing. They're not here to take my job. They don't want my job. They don't want
Right.
to run my business. So
I love
hire smarter people than you. Get over it. I mean,
Well, you got to invest in the people, right? You got to invest in the talent.
Yes.
And if they're good, they pay for themselves inside themselves, right? It's scary to go, I'm going to spend $10,000 on Steve. And then you're like, yeah, but he'll make you $1 million.
Yeah.
Right. So, what I'm just making those numbers up. I don't know what the fees are, right? But just
That sounds good though.
yeah, to go, what is that number and what's the ROI? That's when I say charlatans, because so many people are promising, well, do some due diligence. Did they really produce that? Did the restaurant really, ask hard questions? Because you can always tell someone who's full of bullshit. They just start circle talking you, right? They can't give you an example. They can't give you specifics. And to make sure you do your due diligence, whether it's me, whether it's Steve, whether it's somebody else, no matter what vocation or what you're hiring for, so you can make sure you're hiring the best of the best. Okay, so number 3. So 1 is you're not asking for help. 2, you're hiring the wrong person. What's the third thing that you've seen?
You actually touched on it. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
Right.
And business owners, how many times business owners, they might know their revenue, but then you ask them, so what's your profit? My wife. And they'll give you the same number. Well, no, that's a different, totally, one's on top. One is what we talk about for show at cocktail parties. One is what you take home to mama.
Right.
That's how I look at it.
Well, and who cares, right? I remember one of my first businesses, I opened we were in award-winning salon and spa, the top 1% of the nation, top 10% in the world, every accolade imaginable we won on the cover of magazines. And we did $1 million that year. The same year we lost 70 grand. So I'm like, well, this is a shame, right? It was like the biggest eye opener to go, wait, I don't care about that number. I have no money left. Like, what do I need to do so that I'm not putting in my paycheck? Because that's what I end up having to do, right? Is that 70 grand has to come from somewhere. So it's coming from my pocketbook, right? To go, oh, it doesn't matter. It does matter, but like, how do I become a profitable business? Right. Look at like Mike McCallum's book, Profit First, love the book, simple strategy to make that happen.
I couldn't agree more. There's a lot of businesses that look good on top, but when you look at the bottom line, it's not a pretty picture.
Not a pretty picture, right? And profit is where we look at the healthiness and how you're going to sell your company. If there's no profit, there's nothing to sell. That's when you do an asset sell, right? Okay, you're going to buy furniture or maybe a database or, So what would you say is the biggest challenge your own business is facing right now?
Oh, mine has been, it's the perception, because talk about all those charlatans out there. And it's the perception that, oh my God, I hired someone who they just like left their job. I call it jumping the cubicle. They left the corporate job. They've never owned and operated a business. And they're going to come and tell you and give you advice and your ideas on how to run a business. And they hire these people and they run that coach runs that business into the ground, and it gives us who have been there, done it, and are certified and have this proven techniques and all the strategies. It's like, it kills us. So it puts a bad taste in their mouths. And it's like, that's been one of the biggest challenges.
And so looking at your business, Steve, and who you are, we're seasoned. We're seasoned.
I like that a lot better.
And so what have you done to build your own personal wealth, in growing businesses and, to take care of your livelihood? Because at the end of the day, we don't want to keep doing this forever. We get to choose to do it, but we don't want to have to do it. That's the difference between a job and building wealth. So what do you do to build your wealth?
First thing I learned the hard way was scaling.
Mm-hmm.
So I have coaches underneath me as well. That's one way. And then I brought in multiple streams of revenue into the business that, look, this is what I'm doing with it. I'm not touching it. Right. Why? It's automated. It's in systems. It's in processes. All I do is look at the numbers once a month. Why? Because I'm scaling that way. It's a great way to bring in revenue without you having to work for it. You're working for it, but not hard like that. Another thing is I meet with my tax planner, my CPA, 2 times a year, but outside of tax season. So I recommend that to all business owners. And here's why. That's the time to make the changes, not in January.
Right.
They're swamped. All they're doing is knocking out returns. That's the worst time to talk to your CPA. Another thing is get a tax planner on your side. They kind of have that clairvoyancy, if you will. So I sit with them and my insurance guy all at the same time, buy them lunch, and we review my business. Folks, it's worth price, whatever, if they're going to charge you an hourly and it's worth the lunch, you're going to get more value because they're on your team.
Mm-hmm.
These are hiring smarter than yourself people.
Right.
So we review
you outgrown those people too. You got to make sure that I've outgrown so many accountants and CPAs. Oh. I'm like, wait, I'm telling you what to do. This is wrong. Like, I need someone that's playing bigger than me. I'm not a CPA, although I love the business side of it and the math side of it and projections. That's your job. So it's making sure that, you're looking inside of that to make sure they're the right person. Right.
Oh, I totally agree.
Because again, we're seasoned. What would you do different in building your wealth? Like looking back now, that the man you are, the age you are, to go, oh crap, I wish I would have known then what we know now. And we all have those stories, but what's yours?
Oh, I've built it up and I've lost it all. And this is the lesson I learned from that one, was listen to the smarter people. If I would have listened to my advisor, my financial advisor at that time, and he said, do not buy all this stuff. And I went and bought all that stuff. And then the economic downturn hit. And I was, where. If I would have listened to him, I would have a bigger, much bigger bank account at the end of the day, a bigger savings for retirement. Another thing is, I'm a very aggressive person. And so my portfolio shows it even at our seasoned status. And now my advisor is like, we need to move it more conservative. And I'm like, foot on the gas.
I think that's our entrepreneur spirit, Steve, because I think we have the identical lessons, right? It's to go, but I think I'm a tough nut. I'm just guessing you're a tough nut. You can tell me what to do, but I also have to learn the hard way. My grandma, when I got married, she goes, took my husband, I'm not married to him anymore, aside, and she said, I don't know why you're marrying her. She don't listen. I'm like, Grandma, you can't say that on the wedding day.
I know. But they have a clairvoyancy because they've been there, done it.
Right. To go, this one's a tough nut. So you got to be willing to go through it with her.
Yeah. I wish I hired the right people, got the right people on my team for me and my future. And I really regret always listening to them. If I would have listened to them, things would be totally different.
Well, and I think that's risk calculation, right? You listen to them, you take it in, and then you make a decision. So as painful as financially as that was, I think we learned to do it quicker, faster, right? To go, okay, I remember that. I'm not going to do that again, but I'll do this. Not that I like that lesson, but that lesson built character. That lesson built the stamina. It gives some great stories. And you can identify. If you've only had wins and you've never had failure, you have nothing to compare it to appreciate when the wins come again, right? So.
I totally agree. Now if my advisor says, hey, let's do this. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. I'm aligned.
Whatever you say. And he just looks at me like, are you kidding me? I'm like, whatever you say.
I have learned.
I'm going to keep my hand out of the cookie jar right now.
I'm going to be obedient. That was a hard one for me. Obedient. I'm going to be obedient to this lesson.
Yeah. I still ask why you think that.
Right.
And thank God, I hired the right people and they go, boom, boom, boom. Here's the result. Boom, boom, boom. Make it happen.
Exactly.
If you need a signature or something.
And so then, Steve, if you look back, so let's say we're at the end of our seasons, right? What's the one thing that Steve wants to be remembered for?
Seeing more small businesses survive and thrive, and trying to reverse the trend of small business failure, which has not changed since 1932 when they started tracking it.
Wow. I haven't heard that statistic. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How do people get a hold of you? How do they play with you? How do they get that algorithm in their software?
Yeah.
Because my students are like juicy. Want to, spend 45 minutes with Steve? Because I read on your site, I'll find you like you could find 10 grand to 100 grand. I'm like, that is worth 45 minutes.
Exactly. And I'll be honest, I build a case study of that and I put it in my next book. I got my 7th and 8th book. Well, 7th book's done. 8th book, if I could finish that last chapter, because my editor is like yelling at me because all I'm doing is their edit to check it. Come on, it's done.
Right.
But yeah, I'm my biz coach Steve, bizcoachsteve.com. And one thing I've been doing for, I don't know, maybe 5 years or something is, business owners really don't have anyone to talk to a lot of times because you can't talk to your spouse saying, hey, I'm having problems at the business, because all they think is like, how are we going to pay the mortgage?
Right.
And you can't tell your employees, otherwise they start updating their resume.
You freak them out.
Freaking them out.
I've done that one. I freaked them out. I'm like, oh, I can't share that with my employees.
No, you can't tell your fellow business owners around you because they're thinking, ooh, I wonder how much the rent would be if I acquired his space too. And if you have advisors or anything, they have no confidence in you. So they're like, I think we're advising the wrong person. So what I've been doing is just, hey, get on a call, 15 minutes. You can vent. You're not going to get judged. I'm not going to sit there and make it a sales call. It's just someone to talk to that understands what you're going through. I mean, I know what it feels like to wake up at 2 a.m. in a cold sweat and worrying about tomorrow's payroll. I totally understand that one.
Right.
And it's been really like therapeutic because I am starting to notice that suicide rates for small business owners are increasing, and it's all over money issues.
Yeah. It used to be just dentists were the highest ones, and now it's just
small business owners are creeping on up.
Right.
I mean, I get actuarians. I know a lot of actuarians. I mean, if I had to do what they did every day, yeah. I hope they don't. But.
And so you can find Steve at biz coach, COACH, Steve.com. Reach out to him. You can follow him on social media as well. Is it the same handle?
Yep, Biz Coach Steve. And I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn. I haven't looked at Twitter in a while. I just started on Instagram.
You've got a great podcast. Yeah, so YouTube, lots of resource, do your due diligence. Steve, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a champion for small businesses. We need more of us in the world to hold the possibility and not judge us for the stupid things we do. Just love us through our pain and show us the money. That's my big takeaway.
There you go.
I'm gonna show you the money.
Realize your goals and dreams. I mean, you got into business to build something for you and your family or your community. Come on, let's do it. Let's build it.
Exactly. So if you love this, you love Steve, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you share on all your platforms, because there's somebody struggling right now that needs to hear Steve's message, to know that there's hope and possibility. Until next time, I'm your host, Susie Carder on Power Your Profits. Thank you for being my guest, Steve. You are a badass. Loved having you. And I appreciate playing.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Power Your Profits podcast. Let these building blocks from today's most successful industry leaders equip you with the necessary resources and tools to finally establish the highly profitable business of your dreams. Want to hear more? Listen to more episodes at https://poweryourprofitspodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the show. Now is your time to rise to the top of your game, so be sure to catch our next episode. Until next time.